Okay, welcome everyone. We are having Wisdom Friday on Friday the 13th, and I'm Sasha Rose. I'm the founder of Venus Wisdom Astrology for women on a sacred mission with the cosmic feminine at center. And I was trying a little bit of a new timing here. We're doing an evening session, and I'm so delighted that some of you came live. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to everyone who comes in for the replay. I'm experimenting with timing and trying to find out what's that sweet spot for this kind of fairly casual gathering, but to keep tuning into the Venus cycle and to the energetics of what she's doing in the sky and how that can support us on our own mission. So I'm not sure it's going to stay at this time. This time proves to be a little bit challenging for me on the farm that I'm on right now. But I thought I would try it because for some, it's after their workday ends, Friday night. Unfortunately, for our European UK sisters, it's super late in the middle of the night for them. So they're not going to be able to come. So if you're seeing this and you want to be at these gatherings live and you have a timing that works for you, please let me know because I'm also responding to interest and those that are showing up and saying, hey, I want more of this because this is such an incredible support for us, especially at this time on the planet when things are just going sideways. It just, wow. I mean, wow. So, the purpose of this gathering, as I said, is to tune into the Venus cycle. And so if you're new to this, to know that the way that I hold the astrology is that this 19-month journey, that time when Venus meets the sun closest to the earth, and then 9.5 months later meets the sun furthest from the earth on the other side of the sun, and then comes back around to that position closest to the earth in another 9.5 months. So that rhythm is really giving us this heroine's journey of birth, initiation when she goes behind the sun, and then rebirth or service, really. Like, how do we show up now as transformed women, as matured women? How do we show up in service? How does that inner work that we did in Morning Star and through the underworld, how does that translate in our relations? In our ability to attune to others, but also to hold ourselves and to hold what we know to be true, what we're needing, what we're sensing is right for us. And so there's really this weaving between self and other. If you were in the Chiron Masterclass and you were in that group of women from 47 to 58, that piece may be where your wound is, that taking care of yourself, that sacred self-centeredness. And I would propose that all women have this because we're conditioned as women, so that's at play for all of us on some level. Not to say that everyone experiences it, but in that generalization, it can be so easy for women to go to the other. And we're really shaped to do that, to be good girls and to get along in a way that boys aren't. So there's conditioning at play for everyone. But if you have that Chiron, that wounded healer energy, that disconnection energy in Aries, that masculine, fiery initiation, there can be a way that that's harder to access, that self initiation, that way that we subtly are looking for cues for others. And so this is something that's so available to be healed for both those that have Chiron and Aries in your natal chart and are going through your Chiron return, as well as all of us. We all get to receive that medicine. And of course, we're in a Venus and Aries cycle. So there's the medicine right there. That there's the way that we can be as bold as we need to be, but that doesn't mean that we're being obnoxious and that we're not valuing other. So that Venus and Aries medicine is bringing us into the best of that Aries expression. and ultimately more of our own vitality. So if you feel low energy, if you feel disconnected from passion about your life and what you want to create, this Venus and Aries cycle really has some fiery medicine for you. Or if you feel like you've been out of balance in doing too much of the masculine energy, running a business, being a mom, tending to all the things that you need to tend to, that you haven't had that time for that initiating fiery energy in a way that nurtures you, in a way that fills you up, in a way that puts you on a path that is something new, that's a fresh way of being, that renews you, that revives you, that gives you energy. This Venus and Aries cycle is big medicine for you, for all of us. So, this is really the time as she's in the morning star to be in that kind of inquiry around as she goes through the different signs. What do I need here? What blessing can Venus in her sign, in her position in the sky, what can she offer to me? What reflection about what I'm needing? So she's no longer in that fiery Aries sign that she began in. Now she's in Taurus. So she's dropped into that slower, more sensual earth sign, the earthiest of the earth, fixed earth. And so there's a real invitation to connect with the natural, connect with the slower rhythms, and to ground into the body, ground into all the deliciousness of taking care of our bodies. So, this Taurus energy is very much about resting and having a bath and getting into your oils, drinking your teas, really a lot of that very physical self care and regulating your nervous system, slowing down to really meet yourself. And this is really important because this is going to hold us, this kind of pattern that we put into practice now. Now is the time to gather your self care practices because that Taurus energy is slow and steady. And that slow and steady wins the race. And not that life is a race, but as far as wins the quality life race, it doesn't have to be a race, but there's something now about being so out of balance in the current push and the current stress that this is really the time to look at what have you done in the past that's really worked for you. I mean, you know yourself, you know what works, and oftentimes those things really fall off and we forget them. So the reason this is especially important is because she's going to go into Gemini on July 4th. And Gemini is much faster and much headier, and it's airy. And also, we have another planet that's been in Taurus since 2018, which is Uranus, the great awakener, the revolutionary, the anything can happen, the lightning bolt, the sudden awakening. And that has been a huge theme in what we've seen in the kind of disruptions in both our organic body. I look at Taurus as our organic body, our physical nature. And then the way there's been a lot of positive shifts in people becoming more aware of how to take care of the body and the nervous system and grounding. We've just seen an explosion of these kinds of invitations and awareness of how that's needed, and then also like how much the Wi-Fi and all of these invisible pollutions are affecting us and the microplastics, there's just like, okay, we're waking up to it. Um, and then a lot of disruption around agriculture and it's Uranus is an intense energy. It's an intense energy and it's pushing us to change. And so Uranus is moving into Gemini as well. And that's going to be in the background. That's going to be a backstory starting on July 7th for the years to come. It will go back into Taurus. It's going to do its usual dance where it goes into the sign and then comes back. But Uranus will not go into Cancer until 2032. So, it stays in signs for a fairly long time. And those two energies together, the revolutionary energy, that anything can happen energy in Gemini, which is also associated with not just the mind, but technology and learning, it feels like the whole pace could get even more frenzied, which maybe seems like, how could that be possible? It already seems so frenzied, but it feels like there's a big energetic shift that's going to accompany that. So taking this time now to ground in and to slow down and to create the routines and the habits, that's what Taurus is so brilliant at, is creating those habits, those daily habits, is quite wise for whatever is coming next. And then to just know it's going to be a wild summer. I mean, it already is a wild summer. The world's exploding. There's just so much conflict happening. And where do we need to put our energy is a really good question right now. Where do we need to tend to giving ourselves? And there's so much that is dividing us. And I feel like that's the negative manifestation of the Aries energy is war. Is war. I mean, that's how it's been cast in this play on this planet at this time, at this change of ages, is that Aries is war. And so we just had a big shift into Aries with the Venus cycle starting in Aries. That's the medicine of Aries. That's the solution, that we can be the spark, that we can be the pioneers that revere life and protect life, the protector energy. But we also had Saturn, the one of the social planets, the one that teaches through contraction, also in Aries. And Saturn, is really considered more of a malevolent planet in ancient astrology, more of a problem planet. I think so much of how we learn from the planets depends on the map, the way that we're holding the map. So I'm not saying Saturn is bad in itself, it's a planet, but then, it's been associated with some pretty dark kinds of energies on this planet. And so anything that goes into Aries is getting a fresh start. So we've got a new Venus cycle in Aries. We've got Saturn, this more contractive energy, an energy of limitations, an energy that can certainly teach us about perseverance. So if we're having a contraction, if we're having a fear of showing up and being seen in that Aries energy, it's beautiful that the Venus energy can help us to overcome that, to come into our heart and to walk our path despite the obstacles. But Saturn is there too in Aries, as well as Neptune, the great dreamer, the great dissolver, the mystery energy. And they're coming together. They're very close to each other, both Saturn, the structure, and Neptune, the total lack of structure. And other important key celestial bodies are also in Aries, including Ceres, which is the Great Mother energy, which is connected to Demeter. And that really comes into play with her story and myth of her daughter Persephone and how she was the absolute goddess of life. She was the earth herself. She was the creative force where everything grew. And then she mothered this child, Persephone or Kore, who goes out into the field by herself and gets enchanted by a narcissus flower and picks the narcissus flower. And then Hades comes up and abducts her and pulls her into the underworld. So there's, something about the Demeter that has to do with the pain body as well. And that pain of the disconnection from having the power to protect our children. So whether that's your personal children or it's just your ache for the children of the world, I mean, my goodness, to get the glimpses of what's happening to the children in Palestine right now is absolutely beyond any kind of political affiliation, horrifying. It's just horrifying at a human level. And so we're all feeling that ache of, you know, this world doesn't honor innocence. This current version is so violent and so violating. And so that major asteroid being in Aries, I've personally been feeling that because it went over my Chiron, which is also an indicator of a place where there can be pain, where there can be a painful experience. And so they're not going to meet up anytime soon. I was kind of tracking it to see like when would they come together, but Ceres is going to retrograde, and so they're not going to come together until sometime next year. But they are in Aries together, and then of course there's also Eris, the goddess of chaos and discord, and right now she's right with Saturn. Not Saturn. She's right with Chiron, which I did a whole master class about. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend that you check it out because we're all being affected by the Chiron and Aries energy right now. And it really brings understanding too, I think, between the different generations and the different cohorts in the generations and what their wounds are and what they're going through and what their quest is to find themselves. So with all of that said, well, one more thing to say is that planet Saturn, very close to Neptune, as one of the social planets. So it really it stays within a sign for 2.5 years, but it's more personalized than the way out there planets. Like Neptune's much further out there, Pluto's much further out there, but it really gives us a sense of what's happening in the collective learning. So we have the teacher of no, which is Saturn, as Chani Nichols talks about. Teacher of no, Saturn, and then teacher of yes is Jupiter. Jupiter's teaching through expansion, through having more, through creating meaning, through gathering together and publishing and sharing ideas. Jupiter has that kind of energy. So they're in a clash. They're in a square. And Jupiter in Cancer, that also recently went into Cancer, feels like that mother energy. And so that mother energy of Jupiter in Cancer with Mercury nearby right now is clashing with this energy of the fire of Aries. And I wrote a post the other day, something like, the grandmother council would ground these warring boys. Enough. Life is sacred. Like, how do these men in charge get to dictate this kind of non-stop violence forever on this planet? So I felt like that was some of the message, that grandmother council, which we know is a part of the governing structure of some of the native organizing structures that were here, that were really inspired the early settlers and their governance systems. if we believe history. I don't know. I just question so many things now. I feel like there's so many narratives that I'm not sure about the accuracy of much at this point. But obviously, things went down, and we know that the dominators, the victors won, and so they wrote the story that we're reading now. Basically that's what we know. Whoever won created the story that we're reading now, that we're being told now. So, all of this to say that there's a lot going on. I just wanted to touch into some of what that was. But I also wanted to share in the Chiron class, and you can use this no matter where your Chiron is, but for those with the Chiron in Aries, I wanted to share a technique that I learned when I was researching the class that came from Robert Phoenix. I don't know if you know the astrologer Robert Phoenix, but this is really interesting. So look at your own Chiron, look at the degree, and it can be from 0 to 29, whatever sign it's in. Whatever the degree in, he uses that correlation to the age that you were when that wound was formed. So if you have a 5-degree Chiron, you want to look at, did something happen at 5? If you have a 17-degree Chiron, did something happen at 17? So I wanted to put that out there because for me, it was incredibly profound, the correlation between the degree and an event that happened in my young life, because I have a young degree. And so I'm very curious if you do that exercise and you look at your Chiron and it connects with some part of your history. I'm very curious if there is some correlation there in your life story. So with all that said, I really wanted to do a bit of a meditation tonight and a bit of a grounding tonight to support us in these super intense times and the the aftermath of that Sagittarius moon. I just heard so many people say how exhausted they were after the full moon. I was super exhausted. I think the day after I took 3 mini naps just to get through the day. So I wanted to give us some time to connect in and to get centered and to keep the conversation going about the Chiron energies, because the Chiron energies are so alive for all of us. And then this very specific group of women are somewhere in their Chiron return and claiming their agency, claiming more of their ability to feel the truth of their fire. And that's usually uncomfortable for most, to feel the truth of their fire and to express what they need to express, to really draw upon that Venusian energy of love, fierce love in that process. And so I wanted to give us a bit of time with that. So go ahead and get comfortable wherever you are. I'll get comfortable too. I'm gonna put a little oil. So taking some time to to really feel yourself. If you want to lay down, you can lay down. Oh, I have mascara on my eye. Did this wild run out to the duck pen, and one of the ducks was being bullied by the other ducks. So it was a whole drama. So no matter what happens, we have this place inside of us. And so taking a moment to go inside and just become aware of what's happening inside of you right now. And slowing down to your perfect pace to feel yourself more. Slowing down and sinking in to your soma, to your body. And with each breath, allowing that breath to bring you deeper inside of you. And if you want to take a conscious breath that's bigger than you would normally take, you can go ahead and take a breath in with your nose, through your nose, and exhale through your mouth. Let's do that 3 times. Bringing yourself deeper inside with each breath. Last one. Breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. If you want to say ah, and just feel that jaw soften, drop, and allow you to feel more of yourself. Allow you to soften and drop from your head into your heart, to choose that not knowing place, to take off the grip of the mental construct and soften into the heart, letting your jaw be soft, your face soft, your throat soft, your shoulders softening in as you feel this heart space, this hearth within you, and feel the fire of that. And I like to really have this visual. I have this cave that I go into, this cave that I, in my imagination, go down the stairs into the cave. And in the cave, there is a fire burning at the center. So if you want to engage your imagination and visualize that as you're actually feeling that space within that container, and to gather around that fire, to warm your hands in the care of that fire of your heart, in the warmth and the affection of that. And to slow down to your perfect pace to feel yourself here. And notice what happens in your body as you deepen into that space, into that center. And I want you to really experience yourself as a heroine here. Experience yourself in your multidimensionality here. If you've done the Venus design work with me and you have an image of your inner heroine, I want you to really imagine yourself as her and imagine yourself sitting around that fire as this being who has a mission and a purpose, this being who is ancient, and listening to your deeper soul guidance and slowing down inside yourself to feel what you're feeling right now. What is moving through that deeper river of your heart? How can you be more honest with yourself right now about your relationship to this place? This relationship to your center, the relationship to this source energy within your own body, this spark, this fire, and allowing yourself to fill up with that fire, to fill up with the fire of love, and invoke, remember, connect with the feeling of love, putting no expectation on that to be any way other than it is right here, right now. The fire of love, the flame of care, the heat of protection. Really getting so centered within you that nothing can pull you out until it does. And then you choose this place again. It's really anchoring this felt sense of being centered in the warmth of your heart, in the energy of love. And as you're experiencing that, experiencing yourself as a heroine that you are, I want to invite you to look across that imaginary fire and to see that there is a medicine woman sitting across from you. And she is wild. She is connected to wildness. So she may not look like a beautiful, sexy goddess. She is a wild medicine woman, shamaness, magical being, ancient one. And so taking in whatever visual or whatever feeling you have of her, she is your Chiron medicine. And I love that Chiron has a wife, Cheriklo, and she really assists him. And so I see this medicine including both the masculine of outer action as well as the feminine water of presence. So allowing that figure, allowing that imaginal archetype to arise across the fire. Perhaps it's a color, perhaps it's just a sense. And from this place of heart, being in your heart center, being centered in love, open to receiving whatever is here for you through this opposition, through looking across the fire at this medicine woman, the one who is not afraid of the pain, the one who turns towards the suffering and to begin to open to words or images or symbols that she may be giving you. Allowing yourself to receive whatever's here. And come to completion with receiving whatever gifts, whatever messages, whatever energies might have transpired, might have been relayed to you through her. And then I want you to imagine that she dissolves. She dissolves into rainbow light right before your eyes. And just allowing that release of the imaginal. And then you feel her sitting next to you. You feel the presence on your left side of this luminous, wise, ancient being. And you feel the support of that as you come back into your heart. And if you want to put your hand on your heart, supportive. And from this place of love, from this place of the fire of love, I want you to feel that medicine woman next to you. And in front of you, I want you to really imagine someone who you love who is suffering. And as you're anchored in your own love and your own fire, I want you to imagine light, that rainbow light coming out from your heart, that rainbow light shining forth from you and touching this person in the imaginal. It might be a child, a friend, a parent, a lover. And that rainbow light comes out of your heart so strong, not depleting you at all. and it touches that person. It helps relieve their suffering in some way. If you want to find your voice in that and find a sound as you imagine that rainbow light coming out. And imagine that person receiving the light and being nourished by it, being helped by it. And then I want you to imagine their pain as this gray smoke, and it's coming to you. They're exhaling their pain, it's coming to you. And I want you to imagine embracing that pain, embracing, taking that suffering from them out of love, allowing that into the fire of your heart. Let me take that for you. And notice what happens in your own body as that smoke comes in, breathing that in, knowing that your ancient soul self can never be harmed. The power of love can transmute all. And asking them if there's more, asking them what else there is. Receiving that, transmuting that in your own fire of love. And noticing if there's any last wave of that gray smoke, noticing if it's complete. And noticing what happens in your system when you're willing to take on someone else's suffering. And then again, that rainbow light is coming out of your heart, and that's touching them. You're seeing them have some relief, have some joy, have some cessation of their suffering, being filled up with this rainbow light coming from your heart. And so see them change in the positive in your mind's eye. And then they're going to disappear into rainbow light in that ah, and they dissolve. And you're back sitting in front of that fire, aware of yourself, aware of this medicine woman on your left side. And notice how you feel now. Notice if you feel different in any way. The fire in your heart still burning, burning bright, burning strong, the fire that never goes out, truly. And welcome in any sparks that you need right now to keep you going. And giving thanks to this Chiron energy, this medicine woman energy. I see her laughing. You might see something else, but giving thanks for that presence of the suffering, that willingness to turn towards the wound, your wound, and someone you love, their wound. And then she disappears into that rainbow light. And you're sitting there yourself, just you. So taking a moment in the stillness of this inner space. And then as you're ready, I want you to imagine that you are getting up from your seat and giving thanks to the fire, And then you're going to come out of that inner space knowing you can return anytime. And you're going to spiral up, whether you're actually walking upstairs back into here in your head, or if you just begin to open your eyes and come out, you're coming out from this deeper space and bringing this knowing in our bones, in our body, that our presence connected with love can heal in ways that we haven't even begun to discover, and that we can become that resource. This is something that I often do when my daughter is suffering or someone I know is suffering, is I will imagine that breathing in their suffering, breathing out to them that kind of rainbow light. So taking your time, and if you want to spiral out of your inner world, you can do that. Move, if you want to stretch, anything you need to do to support yourself to be out of more of a trance state, because we do get into a trance state when we go into those inner places. So coming back into the space, into the room, and really centering in you being the fire of peace. What would your life look like if you were the heat of peace, the heat of harmony, the heat of love? Just seeing so much, if you've been a pattern watcher and you've really been following the social manipulation, the social programming that really began in the 60s with the revolution of the 60s, and the way that these liberation movements are actually coded with different agendas from those in power. And I'm seeing a lot of how these different issues have been so sophisticatedly designed now that they're just tearing people apart more and more. It's a very interesting thing to watch, that when we engage, even from a place of care and protection, that suddenly, if we are caring and protecting about a certain group of people, it seems like it's in opposition to another group of people. And so, really bringing that energy of the fire of peace, and letting that move through our throat, letting that move through our hands when we're typing, whatever we're typing, if we're on social media, that energy comes through, because the division is so strong. And it feels like we have this opportunity to ground into our self-care practices with Venus and Taurus, and carry that light, the fire of love with us through this whole cycle. So I hope that was supportive for you. Feel free to share anything in the chat. Feel free to share anything wherever you're watching this, on YouTube or email. I always love to hear your experiences. And I just feel so blessed to be connected to so many visionary healers and women of heart, women of wisdom, all across the world, that we're weaving this web, and that our time is coming. Our time is coming when the boys are not going to get to be warring and burning the whole world down. The time is coming for that mother energy. And I really feel that with this Jupiter in Cancer, because Jupiter expands wherever it is. So we get this expansive Jupiter energy, that mother energy, to really hold us for this next year as well. So we've got a lot of positive, inspiring, supportive energies. And where are we going to put our attention? Because when we find ourselves going out and going in all the directions, to keep coming back to that hearth within. Such a blessing to get to be with you on this Friday evening. So great to see you, Becky and Sandra. Really sweet time. Take good care of yourselves, and happy Friday the 13th. I think it's the only one in 2025. I forgot to mention that, but sacred 13 number. Oh yeah, so that is Robert Phoenix. Phoenix like the phoenix. And he is an old school astrologer. He's been doing astrology for a long time. And I heard one of his students say that he had that method for the Chiron degree. So you may want to look him up. He's very interesting. a bit of a truther himself. All right, dear ones. We'll see you again next Friday. I'll be in touch about timing. We'll just keep weaving it and sending you so much love. Take care. Bye.